in this series, Where's the Love? And we're kind of looking at where is a lack of love in the world around us.
You don't know if I like the beat or not? Well, I'll put it this way.
So where do you see love lacking in the world around you?
Social media, for sure.
Facts.
It's a good one.
Especially since COVID, it's just gotten like, you can just tell like toxicity is like a thing.
So what's your experience like? Like where would you see it in social media?
Well, politics for sure. Like you really try to stay out of it. It's like you can't really, because it's always like there, and so you like try to get like ignore it, but you just can't.
Right.
Even as kids, it's crazy like how you can see a division, even though we like barely even know anything. It's like how are you gonna fight somebody? And it's
right. So you guys can't even vote.
So how are you gonna like have an argument about something you can't even vote for?
Right.
It seems like we saw such a divide due to politics in 2020. Did you see that play any role in like your friendships or maybe throughout your school? Did you see a divide because of politics?
I think even in like some of my closest friendships, it's been a really big issue because like being like even just like certain like trigger topics, like if there was like one disagreement, it almost like led to like the end of a friendship. It makes me really sad that that's where it is.
Why do you think that we do that? Why do you think we allow something like politics to cause us to not love?
I think it's just so easy to want to be with people and be around people who think the exact same as you. Like put yourself in this bubble. Like, and I think we do it with like at school, like we do it like in our like honors bubble. Like if you're in honors classes, you only want to hang out with people who are in honors classes, and like your church bubble, like you only want to hang out with people who are in the church. But like it would be the same thing. Like we will only want to hang out with people who have the exact same political views as us. And I think that if we stay in that bubble, we're never going to learn anything. We're never going to grow. Right. So I think when we feel challenged and we feel like out of our comfort zone, like that's people feel like uncomfortable. So I think that's where a lot of the division comes from.
So in 2020, we saw a lot of stuff surrounding things like social injustice. Have you ever experienced injustice based on your race?
Yes. One time we went to this Nigerian party, and I forget where it was. It was somewhere around Indiana. And when we came back, we stopped by McDonald's, and this guy cut my mother off, and then he saw us. We were all wearing Nigerian clothes, and he saw us, and he was like, "Go back to your own country." And then I was like,
that's crazy, right?
Yeah.
What do you think the church's reaction or their response should be to social injustice?
Well, I mean, obviously, like Jesus, he was a giant social. He brought on major social changes that have waves that impact us today. But like honestly, in the past years, though, every type of social injustice that has occurred, the church's comments haven't really been like. Not really a stand. You might make a post or something about it, offering support, but like they won't have like a proper stand. And I feel like that's just like every time that happens, I just kind of feel a little sad and disappointed at the same time.
A lot of the times, a lot of churches narrow their focus to individual salvation rather than like social justice issues and stuff, because that can get like quote unquote messy. So they focus more on individual salvation, but then when they do that, that turns people away from the church and stuff. And I think that as Christians, it's really important to look at the oppressed and look at the injustice and try to make a change, because that's what Jesus was. And if we really want to live like him and help people experience like what Jesus was like, I think that the church should play a bigger role in those types of issues.
Wow, that's good. She's preaching right now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So
guys, we're done. She's going to take over the rest, the second half of the video. In this series, we're going to learn about the parable of the Good Samaritan. Right? Maybe you've heard that parable before. It's he's sitting with some people, and this guy says, "Hey Jesus, how do I get into heaven? How do I get eternal life?" And Jesus says, he understood that this guy was testing him, right? And so he says, "Well, what does the law say?" And this was a Pharisee who was asking him. The Pharisees, they abide by the law. Like that's what they hold firm to. And he says, love God with everything that you have and love your neighbor And he says, you should go and do this then. Jesus tells him, go and do that. And he says, who is my neighbor? Right? As a way to justify what he's trying to say. Like he's like, who is my neighbor? Tell me. And so Jesus tells us this crazy parable where he says, there's a man who was walking down the street and he gets robbed, right? Gets beat up, left for dead. And he's on the side of the road. A priest walks by, sees him, denies him, ignores him, and continues on with his life. Then a Levite comes, sees him, ignores him, and continues to go on his way. But then a Samaritan comes by, sees the man that's in need, goes over and pretty much saves his life, takes him back to his place, pays for him to have food, for him to have care. And Jesus looks at the guy and says, at the Pharisee, and says, out of all these three, who was the good neighbor? And he says, the one that showed mercy. And Jesus said, just like he did, go and do likewise. And we see this image that Jesus gives us of like, this man was broken, he was left for dead, he was hurt, he was struggling, and out of all the people who came and helped him, it was a Samaritan, someone who in that culture was looked down on because they were considered like the half-breeds of the time. And Jesus says, go and be like them. Right? And so to say that to this Pharisee was like saying, hey, go and be like the person that we've been neglecting for the longest time. Like, go and be like that person. But Jesus stood for loving each other and for justice and for caring for one another, for carrying each other's burdens. And it seems like it can be really easy to neglect those who are suffering. I think that we would see so much change happen if we took on that idea of love. Like, it's not just about what you believe or who you are, or how you look or what it is, but it's not even how maybe I can make you feel better about yourself, but instead, if I can love you with the love of God, if I can treat you the way God has treated me, because God has given himself up for all of us, if I could treat you that way, then, and you go on and do the same thing for other people, we would start to really see a change because of the love and because of the way that we love. And so our final question is, how can you leave here today in better love?